process you currently have for liquidating traffic from Instagram into actual cash is costing you money every single day. By the end of this video, I'm going to prove it to you, show you everything you need to do to fix it for completely free. So none of these videos are going to be a pitch. This is the first video on the channel. They're not going to be edited. They're going to be raw because I know if I have to edit them, they're never going to get done. And so this is a way to keep myself accountable. We're going to rip these raw. Inspirations for these videos are Jeremy Haynes, Ryan Klug, type focused, super valuable. But we're going to get into it. And honestly, today's going to be about how we collected 12K cash for a client with less than 5,000 IG followers in a single day. And it's all because we focused and have a very particular way of funneling traffic from Instagram into book calls. And it's exactly how we're kind of scaling in this new market of info products, sorry. And it's this little weird ground between we had the book a call funnel working really, really well, and now longer form stuff's coming back like webinar challenge funnels. How does that even apply to Instagram and Instagram DMs? No one's really talking about how to play stories and reels and how they play together and how to like liquidate that information and liquidate those leads into an actual effective book a call. And because most book a call funnels you see from Instagram likely produce these uneducated leads on calls, and your closers complain nothing's getting closed, and there's no cash being made. So anyways, here's a screenshot to prove from that client's account, very close to the client. So look, we have this screenshot to show proof, but we'll kind of get into it, right? The secret that we've kind of noticed and what we've built, every client we operate for now, we've gone with this thesis. It's the secret that is kind of being held and gate kept by these bigger guys in the space, the guys like Iman, the guys like Cole Gordon, all these guys that we look up to. And the truth is, it's all because of the machines that they place inside of their business, right? Machines are consistent, machines are predictable, and they're very cost effective. And machines trump consultants, agencies, and this big staff. So instead of you having a ton of setters, a ton of SDRs, Philippine VAs to send outbound to your account, to all your followers, all these big staff operations, they all get trumped by machines. So how do we build the machines in our business that sell, and specifically in this video, liquidate Instagram? All right, we're going to talk about two machines that are responsible for that 12K day, particularly the booking machine that we put in place to do it without relying on setter talent. So we take talent out of the equation, right? Anything we come into a business and we build inside as a system, want it to be as least reliable on the talent of staff as possible, right? So that churn doesn't affect any sort of cash influx, right? So the pre-call machine also, in that case, that converts the leads to layup sales calls. Sorry. So we have the booking machine and the pre-call machine. I'll get into both of those. And in bonus, I'll kind of explain how you can take this into your own offer today. So you have some action steps. You get actual tangible value from this video. And it's not just like a mental masturbation thing you're going through if you're an operator or an offer owner. Anyways, here are the first three pieces to a sales engine. So on the left here, on the right, I have the only three machines that matter when you're talking about a sales process, and anything else is just subsections of these machines. But it starts to become really easy to see bottlenecks when you bucket into each of these three systems. These three include the lead to book, the book to show, and the show to close. And they all have different intentions, and they all have different subsystems within these that make them work or don't work. All right, so today we're talking about the lead to book and the actual book to show. So we're not going to talk about the show to close. This is much more heavily dependent on sales call framework, all that kind of stuff. We can get into that whole rabbit hole probably in the next couple of videos. But lead to book and book to show, we're going to talk about the goals of each of these, and we're going to talk about what we're doing inside of these two subsystems or inside of these two systems that make them super effective, especially for Instagram specifically. All right, so don't overcomplicate it. These are the only three to worry about. We're going to talk about these two first ones here. Any questions, DM me on Instagram. I'll probably in the bio or some shit. I don't know. All right, so the booking machine. All right, the whole goal of a booking machine is to transfer leads on Instagram, right? All these people on your Instagram into a booked call. And we have different principles, these 4 principles within this booking machine that make it work or not work. All right, so you probably are missing one of these things, if not all of them, and it's causing your lead to book machine to be broken. All right, so first is hyper relevance. Now, the biggest thing we noticed when we looked and we reimagined these systems and really thought about it from core principles is, why does someone book a call, right? They book a call because they feel like you as the offer owner, you as whatever expert in your niche, can solve a very specific problem. And the problem with organic audiences in organic funnels is that you have to wait for that person to feel a certain level of conviction that you can solve a very specific problem, and that takes a lot of time, right? So for example, you're on this video now because you want to solve liquidation from Instagram. As a Cole Gordon, as a whatever it is, whatever expert you want to name in the space, you have to watch a certain video of them talking about that certain specific problem, especially because you're obviously more expert in the space. You know what you're doing. You're not just this B2C lead, right? You know what problem you need solved. And you need to find out that if that specific expert, even though you like them already, can solve this very specific problem. And the problem is most organic funnels have no way of discovering what is hyper relevant to that lead specifically. They don't have a system that actually meets them where they're at there, gives them the resources to speed that whole cycle up. And then 3, they have no way of framing that book a call as a solution to that exact problem. So first thing we're talking about is hyper relevance. How do we get hyper relevant to the actual target, to the actual lead, to get them a higher chance of booking on our calendar? And again, Book to Show is going to cover a lot of this pre-selling, educating before the call, talking about strictly getting these people in your lead list to a booked call. Now, very first result, hyper relevance. How do we do this? And what we do when we come into a client is we break every audience base down into 1, 2, 3 categories, right? I'm going to use copywriting as an example. It's what the niche this person was in, this client, this testimonial in, just to make it easier. Now, for most people in his audience, there were 2 groups, right? There was the group that wanted to get better at the skill set, right? So I'll just say skill set focus. And if you're running a biz op, this is will be pretty replicable to whatever like model you're running, drop shipping or whatever the hell. So we had skill focused and we had signing clients. Within that person's audience, within their like big little 50 person count, every single person in there had a different perceived problem than the person next to them, right? They either fell into skill focus or they fell into signing clients. There were these 2 bigger buckets that we can go ahead and use to get deeper into. So first thing we did was we built a system, a voice note system from the creator, and architected an actual sequence that we can walk every single lead through in DMs to not only get them to book, but before we go for the book call, get very, very clear on their perceived problem. So first key takeaway, you aren't booking calls because you don't understand how to break down your audience into every perceived problem that they could have within like their actual bottlenecks in their business, or if it's a biz op, you don't understand the perceived problems of their audience, and your call, your actual book a call, CTA, isn't hitting close enough home to that specific trait of the audience. Sorry. And so in this specific audience, we broke it down into skill set and skill focused and signing clients. So now we can architect a conversation that doesn't start with fucking appreciate the follow. What made you want to follow us? No, we have a very clear idea. We already know who they are because we've been talking to them. We know them. We make content for them. So instead, that intro message is going to sound a lot like this. It's going to sound like, hey, what up, Alex? Appreciate the follow. Just going through this list. Do a couple of these every day to make sure I'm serving my audience as much as possible, just so I can help out the most. What is it more you're focused on currently? Is it more skill, acquiring the skill, or is it more focused on signing clients right now? Just so I can help better. Right now, we're engaging people in terms of helping them solve a specific problem that they've already told us. So now our opener, right, our very first message, and I'm horrible at writing on this freaking remarkable, but our opener is focused on one of these 2, right? And we go even a little deeper here. I'll give you some sauce. We go a little bit deeper. And after we ask, let's say the signing clients, they say, I want to sign clients. We give another voice note. Okay, cool. Like, just so I know, are you kind of in school right now? Are you working a job? And like more specifically, like what kind of clients are you trying to sign? Right? So now not only have we uncovered, and this is all system based, right? This is not reliant on the setter talent. Now we have a clear idea on what is their perceived problem and how are they trying to get there, right? We cannot shift beliefs outside of getting them their trust. So we're earning their trust by taking time to understand these things. It's the same concept as in you never pitch, right? You can't pitch someone on a 5-minute discovery, but you can take that same pitch at the end of a 45-minute discovery, and there'll be a lot more receptivity to it, just because it's earned. And so we're earning trust with systems, machines that don't take our time, don't rely on setter talent, but give us a way higher throughput to that booked call. So hyper relevance. That's the first thing I wanted to cover. Your system isn't built to find out perceived problems and limiting beliefs. So perceived problems, make sure you uncover that before you go for this stupid thanks for the follow, or even like, what do you do? What are your goals, right? Every single B2C lead specifically too, by the way, if you ask them what their goal is, it's 10K a month. But they find how to sign their very first client much more valuable than you telling them you can help them hit 10K a month, right? It's this like kind of weird trust recession symptom that's happening now, where like you as an offer owner are much better off, have a much better booking and closing rate if you can convince someone of something that's easier but more valuable to them. In their eyes, they're sharp enough. They just need that first step. They just need to be able to sign that first client. 10K a month isn't something that even believe realistically that someone can promise them yet. So knowing your audience better. So that's first thing, hyper relevance. B, shifting how we use lead magnets. Now, that was an example of, let's say, someone who just followed the account, just came into contact, letting like to reel or whatnot. Okay, but in terms of shifting how we use lead magnets, you probably, and if you don't, this is a problem as an offer owner, as an offer, have a ton of lead magnets that you're using right now that aren't being used as effectively as possible, right? So when we use lead magnets now, it's as conversation starters, not enders. Most companies use lead magnets in a way where they're sending them off and they hope the person replies, or they hope the person is watching it and getting back to them and saying, oh, it's so valuable, all this kind of stuff, right? But we know the more people pay, the more they pay attention, and they're not paying shit for these lead magnets. So we can only use the information from the lead magnets that is actually applicable to us. What serves us when someone inputs their information for a lead magnet? Yes, we get their email, their number, whatever it is. However, what we're more looking for is what perceived problem are they admitting to by going and like putting their information in for this lead magnet. So now we have a step in the game. So now see how everything with Instagram DMs is funneled through this machine that gets closer to this perceived problem. This is the big thing you're missing in all your systems, right? So when someone kind of enters their information for a lead magnet, now what we use, instead of saying, oh, let's send them a lead magnet, hope they come back, hope it's like the best thing in the world, they actually go through, take action on it, make money, come back, doesn't happen in the B2C market. We now use that information tactically as a business owner, because we know, hey, if they got a lead magnet to help their skill set focused, we know that lead is skill set focused. That's the problem they're solving right now. We can go ahead and hit them with this sequence that gets clearer on that already kind of given perceived problem, right? So now we can frame all of our DM conversation architecture towards the perceived problem of a skill set issue, right? So shifting how we use lead magnets, right? C is the call as an answer to the pain. This is super self-explanatory, but instead of you going, your DM setters asking for the goal and then like what's stopping them from getting there and then qualifying them awkwardly, right? This whole system, this process, once we have this perceived problem, we can now position the call. This is how powerful this shit is. Every single call is a specific answer to that person's pain. And because that pain is now very specific and feels relevant to the prospect, they have a much higher booking rate, much higher booking percentage. This is a horrible graphic. You can ignore that. But they have a much higher booking rate because the call feels relevant to them. You are missing relevancy. And this is the only way to scale in the new market when everyone else runs the exact same offers. Dude, there's so many dropshipping offers. There's so many copywriting offers. There's so many BizOp offers. And even if you're in real estate, so many real estate offers, right? Relevancy is what you're missing. You don't understand how to create relevancy and that trust with a prospect in a DM conversation to go ahead and help them book that call. So why DMs have become the bane of every team's existence, but for some teams, it makes them a fuck ton of money because they understand this. All right, so pre-call machine. We'll go over this super quickly because I don't want to make this video super, super long. But pre-call machine, text before triage. So once they book this call, which I recommend being a little bit lower barrier to entry, you can ask for their income and stuff like that. You can experiment that. That's super subjective between offers. Text before triage. You need to have someone calling these leads and triaging them. You cannot get away with like the old way of just DM closing and all this kind of. You need to have actual processes in place. So what is the goal of this book to show machine here, right? The goal of this book to show machine is to pre-sell and educate the prospect. The problem is you think your DMs are broken and the leads are trash. It's on you. It's on you. You don't understand how to market in the new ecosystem of info, right? And what sales teams aren't able to communicate is they keep saying the words not nurtured, they're too cold, all this kind of stuff, they're broke leads. What they really mean to say, and I'll give you the answer as an offer owner or an operator, they're just saying that the leads aren't educated. So this whole book to show process is built around how do we educate the leads? How do we prevent uneducated calls from hopping on the calendar, right? Of course, we'll then be qualified, but to be honest, there are kids piffing 4K that are 16, 17 years old. And so the reality is, what belief serves you? The belief that serves me is that everyone can find the money. It's all about, are they educated enough with enough context on the actual product to go ahead and make that decision on call, right? So you're not getting no closes, you're getting non-answers. That's the worst place to be. All right, so book to show, how do we educate them? First of all, text before triage, right? You have kind of these three components, and these all kind of go together here. You have sales assets, you have and your triage call. Sorry, so you have sales assets that kind of warm them up. These can be like interviews. These can be pre-call VSLs. These can be FAQ videos. All this stuff that frames the call. So you have all these sales assets. Now you have like a manual team. Like you have your setter who like triages. I can't even spell the fucking word apparently. Who triages and then sends over manual nurture resources and like texts and calls them. So what happens when you book a call? Once someone books a call, you have a setter treat them like a damn applicant. So we, instead of shifting the frame of like they've already booked a call, they've admitted to having a problem, let's just close them from here on out. No. We have to treat every book call as if they're just applying. Give them the same energy because that's what it takes to close these guys in this new space. So let's just say someone books a call. We have a booked call. Very next thing should be is a triage call from a setter or a closer. This could be your closer, just save commission and stuff like that, or it could just be your setter. So triage call. What are the goals of this triage call? One, get them hold accountability to watch sales assets. And I recommend this person shoots them over a client interview that looks and sounds like that specific person, and I recommend they have a pre-call VSL. These are the two bare minimum stuff. So the goal of this triage call is accountability to watch sales assets, and it's also to qualify prospect. So it's like basically a set call. All right, that's the two goals of this, and the verbiage here is very specific. When you have your setter on these calls, you need to tell them, or the setter needs to use specific verbiage on these setting calls now, these triage calls, as opposed to how they used to. So they used to be able to say, you need to watch these two videos. These two videos are mandatory. Your call will get canceled without watching these two videos. Let me know when you finish that. Fucking ass. That shit don't work anymore, bro. Unless you're working with a very specific niche and they're maybe not aware, right? But how do you sell generally in this new market? You need to use very specific language. So instead of something like that, you would say something like this. Hey, Alex, just from talking to you for a little bit, like I can see how driven you are. And to be honest, it sounds a lot like the conversations of the guys that come in here and just win. Like, I want to send you over something. I just found it kind of in our library here, but I think would help a lot for you. I'm going to send you over something that looks and just sounds like you, kind of in the same situation you're at, and actually made a transformation, because I want you to start off with expectations that are realistic for where you're at. Go ahead and watch that video. Let me know what you think, because I just think it'd be super helpful whether you work with us or not. Whether you work with us or not is a very, very strong couple of words. Shout out Paul Daly. If you know who that is. If you know, you know. Very strong, powerful words. So that's the verbiage you want them to use to watch the sales call results. Sorry, the sales call assets. And then after that call, I just had this coaching call with the sales team that I run. You need to also be sending them texts like, hey, what you think of the video? Was it super helpful? So instead of saying, did you watch the video? Say, love to hear your thoughts. Hope the video was super helpful. Let me know what you thought, right? These more, not passive, but hyper relevant ways of getting them to watch those actual assets. So instead of me saying it's mandatory, I'm saying this is for you, dude. Like, after talking with you, taking all this time to get to know you, your specific problem, I want to send you something that's going to help you out specifically, whether you work with us or not, right? Accountability to watch the sales assets. And then also obviously qualified prospect. You guys already know how to do that because there's thousands of setter fucking triage scripts out there. All right. Going for the reason pre-call backfires for most people, why you're not getting people showing up to the call. All right, first of all, it's probably a setter problem. Like, your setter isn't building enough gap in that triage call, but that's kind of general advice. If you want to make a video on that, I'm more than happy to, but I want to give you actual sauce in this video, not just regurgitated shit. You are mistaking machines for people. You are sending reminder notifications, most likely, that are built to seem like it's a real person. We don't do that. Right? Every elite team, there's a reason they're all manual in terms of their setting team. We want to keep robots be robots and let people be people. And so the robot, the automated text from Calendly, should look like robots. Let them look like robots. People don't get annoyed by that, right? But when your setter reaches out using language like, excited for your call tomorrow morning, excited for your call tomorrow evening. Don't have your setters reaching out saying, excited for your call tomorrow at 4 p.m. GMT +2. What? All this like clearly copy pasted stuff, right? I get a lot higher response rate when I have my sitter say, hey dude, excited for the call tomorrow morning, whatever I can do between now and then, let me know, I'd love to help out. Way, and maybe not even a period, right? Way lower sales resistance, and it's so reflective of the actual state of the market. So that's why pre-call backfires for most people. You don't even text before triage. Again, you probably didn't know this, but when you text someone your name, it pops up as maybe blank, whatever the name is of the sales rep. So I have a much higher chance of responding to the call. Most people have like silence unknown callers. I know I do. So sending that text out is like super, super useful. All right. Bare minimum pre-call machine. All right. How do I implement it? Not a pitch. This is not going to be me to go to the bio, book a call. I don't think I even have a book a call there. All right. Step 1. Take 10 sales call recordings and sit for 2 hours. One thing I did when I implemented this was I literally opened up like 6 tabs here of actual like sales calls of Fathom, and I just sat there with an open doc and I typed out every single latent condition. What I mean by latent condition is like these responses to these sales questions. So for example, saying like, what are you struggling with? What's your goal? All these, those are super generic. If your salespeople are asking those questions, you should get a new sales team. But just for the simplicity of this conversation, I would write down, okay, here is my ICP. Boom, boom, boom. I'd write down everything there is to know about these people, what answers they're giving on these calls, so that I can go build everything we just talked about in our lead to book system. Now I have actual direction on what that system, that conversation needs to look like to be hyper relevant. So you only get hyper relevance by hearing it from these people directly. And if you have sales call recordings, you need to sit down, put it on for an hour. Even an hour is good enough. Open a doc and write down like quotes from these people. And you can throw it into Claude and have it give you the breakdown of the ICP. Everyone does ICP shit wrong. I know for some clients we launch, I literally sit on Calendly. I book before the product's even built. I set a Calendly event up and I go on their story and I literally sit there for 2-3 hours taking 15-minute meetings, hearing from these people exactly what they want, exactly their pain points, and exactly where they want to get to. So hyper relevancy, that's a cheat code there. Step 2, build sales assets that directly answer FAQ. So every single one of your sales assets, right? The whole point of those now, after this video, hopefully, you're understanding that we use that to get the perceived problem a lot quicker. So instead of saying that sales asset to go and like let them sit on it and like give them free value doesn't work anymore. We're using sales assets now to get a temperature check on what the perceived problem is. So now you need to go and build sales assets that actually attack those sub problems that are within your audience to build hyper relevance and build leverage before these sales calls, right? So for example, for the copywriting example, we need to build stuff that helps them with their skill set. We need to help find stuff that specifically help them on different parts of signing their first client. All these things that we can send before the sales call that target super, super relevant shit within their actual problem or customer or like journey, if that makes sense. Step 3, record evergreen videos and voice notes, right? Because these systems are pretty much templated conversations. It's a machine, right? We talked about machines a little earlier. You can build these sales assets that are direct voice notes from the creator with these questions that get repeated over and over and over again, right? So instead of your DM setter using these like text-based stuff that people already think is like a fucking fake and like it's not the actual creator when they have 400K followers on Instagram, we want to use voice notes from the creator that can be easily templated, right? With these similar openers, these similar questions within the conversation, and have the DM setter maybe fill in some context gaps with text-based stuff. But start building these evergreen assets and voice notes and videos. So you have a lot of room for your setters to play with. They have a toolkit to go ahead and use in conversation, right? Step 4, build a pre-call flow based on limiting beliefs. Again, whole point of Book to Show is to educate people and get every roadblock out of the way between them closing. I want them showing up to that call knowing if they're going to piff or not, right? Which is the goal, right? We want to rely less on salespeople as time goes on. So what do you need to be building your pre-call flow to combat, right? What do the people need to be saying in the client interviews? What do the actual assets, what do the pre-call VSL need to cover? What do these FAQ videos need to sound like? They all need to answer common objections and frequently asked questions so that everything is super shiny when they get to that call. For example, if you run an e-com offer and you have a prospect that isn't educated on whether they need to pay for the ads, or the client needs to pay for the ads, or who handles the ad spend, right? So as soon as they book their call, they get a video, imagine, saying, hey, this is how you actually work with a client, and this is who pays for the ad spend. The client pays for the ad spend. All you have to do is do X, Y, and Z. And this is the skills that once you uncover, you can make 10K a month. Right now, the call just seems 10 times more shiny. It removed a barrier to entry to win in the business model. Dope. Build your pre-call flow based on limiting beliefs. And then step 5, track and test. I cannot emphasize the amount of offers I walk into that are failing because they literally, and I'll type this on the fucking doc so you can go through your thick skull, have no idea what the fuck is going on. They never have an idea of what the fuck is going on in their business. So you cannot have this problem. I forbid you to have this problem going forward. I have tracking that goes from every stage of the conversation. So every single message, now we have it so dialed in that we have stages in the DM flow that I have the throughput rate of each stage. I have the bottleneck. When are they falling off? What openers work, what openers don't work. Every single instance. And now that we have so many conversations going, whenever there's a weird instance, we build a voice note from the creator for that exact situation. So big toolkit, a lot of tracking involved. We have show, offer, close rate, the normal stuff from the DM system. So please, please, please fix this problem. None of this will work if you have no idea what the fuck is going on. So fix this first, get a tracker. If you want a tracker, DM me. I'll send you the tracker that we use for this system. It's elite. All right. Other than that, that pretty much covers lead to book, book to show. If you enjoyed any of that, I have my Instagram probably somewhere in this bio. You can go follow it. If not, all good. I'm going to be posting on here daily just because at this point, I have an amazing team that I'm so grateful for. They are like the best. I cannot imagine working with better people. And they allow me to do stuff like this to help us push the envelope in terms of the brand and just giving free value out into the abyss of what it is online money YouTube. So anyways, that's how we collected 12K in a single day cash with an Instagram account who had less than 5K IG followers. No launch, just evergreen and just good product that look good, sales systems and machines. All right. Let me know if that helped at all. Any questions and comments, DM me for any questions. I'll send you a tracker if you want to. Literally anything you need from me, go ahead and DM me. I'm here if I'm not in sales huddles. But anyways, talk soon.